We got a little background noise.
It's fine.
Is that over there? There you go.
Do you want that? I can have.
I did not have it.
I did not bring it for the one first time ever. It was in this huge gym bag. I'm like, everyone always makes fun of me. Why don't I just leave it in your car? I don't need it.
All right, Carl, so remember to speak this way in the direction of the mic.
Yes. Good to go. All right. Hello.
We'll be starting in 1 second. Just get this turned on. Just so everybody knows, this will be recorded, so whenever we say live to the audience, we want to hear yay, if you don't mind that.
Just like the radio did.
I'm joining. The minute they said something.
Test. You good? Can you hear?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Everybody can hear us?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, so here we go.
Yes. I keep just
That's fine.
We're about to travel back in time. Got all our time machine equipment here.
Oh, the stuff again? Like it's so old.
No.
The following is brought to you in part by Tennessee Studios. The views of the show's host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the management, owners, or staff of this radio station. And now, it came from the radio.
And welcome once again to It Came From The Radio, the officials of the Big Apple Con. This is your host, Mark Torres, speaking. With me at the East Meadow Public Library, in front of the live studio audience, we have Man Jenny Feldy.
Good evening, everyone.
And we also have our special guest we're going to be talking to with and about, which is awesome because he's right here, writer-creator Carl Palino.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Thank you.
So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking to with and about Carl in just a few minutes, but before we do any of that, we have to take it away with the news. The news is brought to you in part by fine folks of the Big Apple Con, which we are the official radio show of, celebrating over 26, 7, 8, 9 years of comic book myths and pop culture stuff. For more information, go to www.bigapplecc.com. The next convention is scheduled for November the 22nd, and believe it or not, tickets are on sale right now. Also, the show is brought to you in part by fine folks at sci-fi.radio. That is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. Now I want to give our shout-outs for our Patreons, of which there are Danny Grillo, Waterman Director Jared Burrell, Newsday famous Treasure Media, Shadow Rabbit Art, Yasmin Array, Rosa, the Huracan, and Millie Cortez. Want to have your own little shout-out? Go to our website, www.itcamefromradio.com. A little button on there takes you right to our Patreon page. Also on the It Came From Radio website is my book, Designated. Book that took 30 years in the making. It's about two warring alien races fighting over a newly discovered power source the war finds its way to planet Earth, and as a result, some humans gain abilities. Issue 1 is on sale right now, and issue 2 is in pre-order. Alright, so as we always do, we start off with the sad news. So we have a couple of bits of sad news, so we'll start with that, and then we'll go to the regular news. Actress Alice Hersham died recently. As of this recording, no cause of death has been announced. While Alice was in a handful of movies and a slew of TV shows, she is perhaps best known for the roles of Marsha Davis in 43 episodes of the daytime soap Another World, Eileen Riley Siegel for 59 episodes of the daytime soap One Life to Live, and Mavis Anderson for 26 episodes of the original Dallas series, and that of Ellen's mom in 28 episodes of the sitcom Ellen, starring Ellen DeGeneres. She was 95 years old. I know Jen does not do soap operas, right? Or did you watch Ellen DeGeneres' show?
I don't even take a shower. You think I do soap operas?
Right.
Yeah, I did watch Ellen DeGeneres.
So she played the mom. Do you remember her? No, yes?
I don't remember anything.
Don't remember anything. Carl, do you remember Ellen? You ever watched Ellen?
You're talking too fast.
I'm talking too fast.
Yeah, watch it, Mark.
I have no idea what he said.
I don't understand a word you said.
Alright, so I will slow it down just a little.
Slow it down, Mark.
So moving on to some more sad news. Actor
Good
Julie.
thing you missed the first part of the sad news, so we're getting all.
You missed nothing.
Nothing. You're
I
good.
hate this part of the show. If I was the main producer, I would cut it out We're talking about people who died. I don't want to comment on people who died. It's terrible, so you miss nothing. Consider yourself thankful.
Thank you, though, Man Jenny Feldy.
Sure.
Sad news, more sad news. Actor Julian Holloway also died recently after a short illness. Julian appeared in a slew of movies, TV shows, and also several voice acting roles, such as Captain Zed in ZZ, Dan Dare, Pilot of the Future, Father of the Pride, which was the animated Siegfried and Roy series with the Lions, Star Wars The Clone Wars, James Bond Jr., and Captain Kronos, just to name a few. Of note, much like in the 80s Flash Gordon film, in Captain Kronos, Julian dubbed over the voice of lead actor portrayed by Horst Jansen. And Horst had died last month on the 25th when he was 89. So Julian was 1980. Did you ever watch Captain Kronos, Carl?
No, you got me on that. I've never seen that.
Alright, so last bit of sad news. We're moving on quite quickly.
Good.
Oh no, that was it for the sad. We have sad news sorry. None other than Teresa Reveles, who was Richard Simmons' housekeeper for 36 years, has filed suit against Richard's brother Leonard for spending over $843,000 of Richard's estate's money behind her back since Richard died in July of last year. According to the documents, Teresa claimed that Leonard had spent $566,000 in litigation costs directed at getting her removed from her role as co-trustee of the estate, as well as $277,000 on 24-hour armed security at Richard's home.
Wow.
Leonard says, Teresa's attorney has filed position after a petition with the courts. We are obligated to provide answers to these court documents, which is costing the estate a monumental amount of legal fees. We do have 24-hour armed security because several instances of squatters attempting to establish residency in Richard's home, as well as perpetrators jumping the fence in the middle of the night.
Wow.
The reason that the January monthly fees for December were paid without Teresa's approval was because she held on to all invoices for over 5 to 7 different vendors over a week without any response whatsoever. These vendors already provided services last month and required payment. I simply did my fiduciary duty as trustee and paid the invoices so not to expose the estate to liability. For those of you who don't know, or care for that matter, Teresa had been working with Richard for about 36 years and was the person who found him dead in his home since his death was already claimed that his brother had tricked her into signing away her rights as a co-trustee.
Wow.
So Jen, you remember we were talking about the housekeeper and about Richard Simmons, and now she's trying to sue for being with him for 36 years as his housekeeper, and she thought she was going to get part of his estate, and then the brother's like, nope, and then they're trying to force him out. So that's what's happening now. Are you familiar with any of this?
No, the housekeeper part, can you remind the audience about this part that haven't been following the show?
So, Teresa
sister.
was Richard Simmons' housekeeper for 36 years. And the brother, when Richard died,
Gotcha.
the brother was like, she doesn't be part of this trust, and he's trying to get rid of her.
Okay.
And so she's suing, saying, hey, you made me sign paperwork.
Okay, so all this was between the housekeeper and the brother. I thought it was brother and sister. No. You know, I can't comment on whatever agreements were with the housekeeper or not, and, you know, it's just a reminder you better put everything in your will so it's extremely clear so no one can override things. So I can't comment on that. But is this in California? One thing I can comment on, I can add something to the conversation, is in California there's a lot of crime. So I know someone who used to be the mayor of Calabasas, a big town in California, and they had to hire their own armed security for their gated community because the crime was so bad that you get broken into. So the only way to really protect yourself in a lot of areas of California right now, this is true, this is not, you know, trying to be fear-mongering, is you have to hire your own armed security to protect your neighborhood because you cannot rely on the cops. So that all makes sense that the house is being broken into, and it would make sense that you'd spend an absorbent amount of money to protect your house, but I cannot comment on whatever agreements, because it's a he said, she said, and I don't do that.
What are your thoughts, Carl?
I don't really follow that stuff, but I did meet Richard Simmons once.
Really?
Yeah, I was at I was visiting the Norman Rockwell Museum, and I'm thinking it was up near the Berkshires, and he came on a tour bus with someone, and he just came in really quickly, looked around the room, made fun of everybody's weight, and said, you're too fat, you're too fat, you're too fat.
Wow.
Everybody laughed, and out he went. And this is like after his show already ended, but it's the last person I expected to see, and he wasn't really like super thin like he was on TV. He looked like an average guy, but I just thought, man, he just walked in and insulted everybody. It was very strange. So very, very briefly got to meet Richard Simmons.
Were they offended?
No, they laughed. They thought it was hysterical. I just like, do you know what he just did?
That's goals in life, to be able to get to some point in life where I can walk into any room and go, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat, you're stupid, and then everyone goes, oh, loved it, bring her back. I'm already kind of there. I do things like that. It's very fun.
So moving on for the not aesthetic news.
Okay.
Let me try this one. From the That's a Lot of Nuts department. The new Captain America sequel has taken the #1 spot in a domestic box office, pulling in $87.8 million in ticket sales in its first week of release, beating out the new Paddington Bear sequel, which came in at the #2 spot, making $13 million in its first week of release. For those of you keeping track, The Lion King prequel is the highest grossing film of this year so far. We're only a month in, 2 months in now, with $113.6 million, followed by Captain America 4 with $87.8 million. Paddington comes in at 16. Carl, did you see the new Paddington and or Captain America film?
Can everybody hear me if I just speak like this? Am I good? Yeah. Okay. So I teach in college, so I'm used to yelling at students to wake them up. College kids, they come in, they start falling asleep. You got to do something. I haven't seen Paddington Bear. I don't think you could pay me to see it. I did want to see Captain America. I just haven't had a chance. And I think by now, like, there's so many spoilers. You're like, you kind of know what it is. So I figured it'll come on Disney Plus soon, and you know, I'll get an opportunity to see it. Daredevil's first. You got to see Daredevil first. That's the most important.
Is it good?
Daredevil?
It's coming out.
The new one? No.
Well,
the Netflix, the original series was fantastic.
Okay.
Oh my God, it was amazing. It was so good.
Okay.
So
What's interesting is that, as we've talked about many times on the show, a lot of movies are now events that you have to go see it right away or you're going to miss out. And that's what they're kind of banking on, that they're making it an event that you don't want to get the spoilers. You have to go see it that first weekend to bump up the first initial numbers for that weekend. And as we said many times, that's really what the studios mostly care about, is that opening number weekend. So it's kind of weird how that is. When back in the old days, being the old man here, you had a movie that was out forever, and you can see it whenever you want. Months and months have gone by, but nobody cares about that anymore. It's all about right now, right here, right there.
I think also what's really happening in the motion picture industry is they're trying to figure out how to get people back into the theater. You know, once COVID happened, everybody realized, hey, you could stream things, you could watch them at home. Why would I leave my house, go somewhere, pay extra money, and watch something? And I can't really blame them. I mean, the films that did get people back in the theater was the Wolverine and Deadpool. The Barbie movie got a lot of people into the theaters.
I even went.
Was it?
I even went.
There you go. That tells you everything.
Yeah, my mom wanted to see it. Yeah.
I took my mother-in-law and she regretted it.
Really?
But, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
how many people saw Barbie, the Barbie movie? One? Just one?
I watched it on an airplane.
You watched it on an airplane. Did you like it?
Price is right.
the price is right. That's good. It's fun.
Say it again, please.
It was very colorful.
It was very colorful. I'm not sure how that translates. Like, did you like it? It was colorful. It's like somewhere in there.
It's in there.
If you didn't like it, you could say so. There's nothing wrong with it.
No, it was fair.
It was fair. I like that. I'm gonna use that from now on. Next time someone asks me how I like their whatever and I don't care for it,
You say it's colorful.
it's colorful.
It was colorful.
Even if it wasn't.
Speaking of streaming, the streaming numbers are in.
Okay.
And for the week of January 6th, the top most watched minutes are Dexter at 731 million minutes watched. Missing You, the drama mystery series, at 752 million minutes watched. Grey's Anatomy, the old show back in the day, is 753 million minutes watched. The new Equalizer with Queen Latifah, which I watched, is at 847 million minutes watched. Virgin River, which is a drama series, at 878 million minutes. Bob Burgers, the animated series, at 936 million minutes. Bluey, the animated series that I've always been talking about.
Bluey's amazing.
People just love this show.
It's a great show.
And it's at 1,107 million minutes viewed.
Wow.
America Prime Evil, which is a Western miniseries, at 1,254 million minutes watched. Landman, which is the Billy Bob Thornton drama series, at 1,378 million minutes. And finally, the most watched streaming show for the week of January 6th would be Squid Games at 2,365 million minutes. Now, of course, the millions of minutes watched is just that how many times it was played. It doesn't really say how many people were actually watching it because they can't tell how many people were in a room together watching on the screen.
No question. These numbers are starting since when?
Just for 1 week.
Oh, 1 week.
Yeah, for 1 week, that's how many millions of minutes were watched of all these programs.
Interesting.
And it is interesting because the range of shows that are on here really tells a lot about what's happening on TV, because not many TV shows are getting these kinds of numbers.
Right.
And then certain older shows are up there in the top 10, fighting hand in hand with brand new things, which is mind-boggling to think that they're spending all this money, energy, and effort in making something brand new,
right,
and it's getting less numbers than Grey's Anatomy.
Because they're still trying to figure it out.
It's the formula they haven't figured out yet.
Yeah, I don't think there is a formula. I don't think there's going to be a formula till something different happens. It's just unusual what's going on right now. Nobody really knows what to produce or how to produce it. And nobody's really doing things. I think they're producing quality projects from their heart. I think everybody's trying to copy everybody, and you end up with the same type of show, and everybody battles for the #1 thing, and I don't seem to get it. I don't watch too much TV, sorry.
I watch a lot of TV, and I've never seen one of those shows on that list. It's crazy.
I started watching a new show last night. It's called Girl on Girl. I watched it for about 17 minutes, and maybe I'm the 17 minutes of streaming it got last night. I don't know, it just looked aesthetically pleasing, and it is.
It was colorful.
Yeah, it was very colorful. It was very colorful. Maybe I'll watch more later, I don't know. We'll see.
So that is it for the news. So we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back with the Came From the Radio in front of a live studio audience.
That's our audience. All right, I'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Todd McFarlane of the Record-Setting Spawn comic series. And if you're looking for any kind of quick conversation about creative, about entertainment, about all that good stuff, you go to It Came From the Radio. You're listening to the right spot.
This is Glenn Flynn, popularly tender known for Axel Tamao, and writing from the Metal Gear series. And you're listening to It Came From the Radio. Stick around.
Hey, I'm Mike Kingston, the writer and creator of Headlocks. And I'm WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler. And guess what you're listening to? You're listening to It Came From the Radio!
Hi, this is Amy Jo Johnson, writer-director from the film The Space Between, and you're listening to It Came From the Radio.
The Grimlock having fun on It Came From the Radio. Meet Greg Berger also.
Now, back to our show.
And welcome back to It Came From the Radio, the official show of the Big Apple.com. This is your host, Mark Torres, speaking with our Special guest, Man Jenny Feldy ran away, but we're still here with Mr. Carl Palino. We're at the East Meadow Public Library for our 89th live show in front of a live studio audience. Is there live studio? I want to mention that the East Meadow Public Library has tons and tons of free programming on their website, www.eastmeadow.info, one of which is our show. But they have tons of other things such as movies, they have panels, they have tons and tons of stuff. All at the East Meadow Public Library. Make sure you guys go to www.eastmeadow.info. Now, today's a special day for us at Came From the Radio, which Jen might not be aware of, and Carl also might not be aware of. So I want to mention that today, 23 years ago, we started this radio show.
Damn.
And it was called The Comic House. And because we started this radio show, I started with my co-host, who's not here with us today, Mr. Hassan Godwin. And I met Hassan at the school from Mr. Carl Palino had way back when it was the New York Academy of Comic Book Arts and Fantasy Illustration.
Oh, wow.
So if not for this man right here, I would be doing this show 23 years later.
It's been 23 years.
It's all your fault.
It's been 23 years since I started the radio show.
Yeah.
But I met you in the 90s. So I actually went to a college fair, and you were at the college fair, and you were trying to get people to come to your school for the New York Academy of Comic Book Arts and Fantasy Illustration.
I couldn't even tell you where that was. I don't remember.
It was on 410 West 410th Street.
Oh my God!
Between 8th and 7th Avenue.
Wow.
And that was where you had your special effects workshop.
Yes.
That's how I met Carl. So the reason I had wanted to make a comic book is something I had always wanted to do growing up as a child. I went to the school to learn how to do that, because of which I met Hassan, became friends with my co-host. Through a unique set of circumstances, I heard on the radio, hey, you guys want to have a little radio show. And so I thought to make a radio show to get my book out. So it all happened because of you.
Wow.
So, first of all, thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
I'm
glad it's a positive memory. It's your fault.
Yeah, well,
you thought I was going somewhere.
I had no idea where you were going. I didn't see snipers, so I guess we're good.
So, I guess the question would be, first of all, why did you decide to make a comic book school? And how do you go from making a comic book school to doing your own comic book over 30 years later? What happened? How did you start off? And tell us a little about the production company that you had.
I've had several production companies. So it's okay, you guys can all hear me? We're good? I had several production companies. I had an animation company, we did props, we did models, we did miniatures. Now all that stuff is done with computers, it's all called CG. But back then we actually built costumes and mask making and stop motion animation. And it was a really, what had happened was, let me just go back many years. I'm getting the feeling I'm like in your age group or I'm older than you. So I've been in the entertainment industry for well over 40 years. And I went to film school originally, and back then we didn't have departments like animation and computers and all that cool stuff. We did everything by hand. We made everything. We shot on film. We shot with movie cameras, and that was always a nightmare because you had to buy the film from one place, you had to put it in your camera, you had to shoot it, take it out, you had to go to the most dangerous area in New York City, and you had to drop it off in a lab, taking your life in your hands. There were always stories of film students who were being mugged, going in and out of the film production buildings where they actually developed the film and printed the film. You had to go back and get it, and we had to put it on this big machine, we had to project it. It was an absolute nightmare. The things you could do with your phone is like way beyond the stuff I learned on. So from there, I found in New York City, it was very hard to get into the entertainment business. It was a very closed unit, and most of the people I ran into didn't want to share knowledge, contacts, procedures, methodologies. There were a smattering of unions, and I almost got into 2 different unions. One was the interior props. I ended up working at a prop house, which is the location where we met. That person had a prop store since the 50s. His father started the prop store in the 40s, and before then, it was an antique store, I think around 1900. So that whole building had a lot of history. And then when he retired, I heard there was like a floor that I could get in and I could run a studio at. So I just started doing different things from there. And in order to subsidize the income and pay for my way there, I was able to create little schools, a school of animation, a school of comic book art, which is something I love to do. But the industry was kind of like crashing at that point. Excuse me. I think a lot of kids were like giving up comic books and they were buying video games. And video games just took off from there, and comic books were doing so bad that I believe that's why Marvel, in order to stay alive, they were selling off the rights to Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, to Sony, to Fox, whoever would give them money. So that was their way of staying alive, and my way of staying alive was doing props for TV. And we did a number of TV shows. One of the big shows we did was for MTV back when that was a thing. We worked on Celebrity Deathmatch. We produced all the puppets for the show. I don't know if you guys remember all the little puppets killing each other, a lot of murder and mayhem. And then I did a number of other things for MTV. We did their music video awards, I think. I know, don't bang the table, got it. We did their music video awards, which is great, because then I got to work with people like Jimmy Fallon, who's still famous today. He's got his own TV show. And just look at my audience here, you may remember someone by the name of Phyllis Diller. I teach college. I mention names like Phyllis Diller. No one knows who I'm talking about. But I got to work with her one day, and it was one of the funniest things in my entire life. It's the thing you take with you forever. You just remember someone making you laugh so hard, you just couldn't breathe. That's how good she was. And it's kind of like, there's a lot of lost memories there because, again, like I said, I teach college, and I'll say Humphrey Bogart, and the kids are like, I'll say MTV, it was the biggest thing 20 years ago. It was the biggest thing. And they're like, oh, that's like a reality show? They're like, no, it was the absolute biggest thing. And they were producing so much animation. So they didn't just do Celebrity Deathmatch, they were doing Dari, an amazing show. So I'm guessing if you have any kids, ask them if they remember Dari, or ask them if they remember Celebrity Deathmatch. Those are just absolutely amazing TV shows. So there you go, you're in that age group.
Yeah, super mean. I'm 40, so Celebrity Deathmatch.
God.
I thought it was one of the coolest things ever. Dar was cool. I didn't like Beavis and Butthead. I thought that things that were stupid were actually stupid, and maybe that was stupid of me.
That was the gimmick, though. They loved stupid.
I didn't like stupid. I just didn't like it. I liked intelligent things. And now I'm warming up to stupid finally at 40. You know, I'm trying to warm up to it. But yeah, no, Deathmatch. So you actually made the clay figures, actually used clay figures in Celebrity Deathmatch.
No, the puppets were actually made out of foam rubber latex.
Hi,
come on in.
Okay.
Join us. Come on. Sit down, relax.
I'm just checking I work here.
No.
I'm just checking you.
Nobody died. Okay, so foam rubber and latex. Now, if you had to make one figurine representing, I don't know, Mike Tyson, let's say, how many hours would that take?
That's kind of a difficult thing to say because what we did was we mass produced them. So it was an assembly line method, because that's how, the only way we can do an entire TV series in like 2 weeks. So we would have several sculptures being created at the same time. Then there would be plaster molds or silicone molds. We would cast the puppets in foam rubber latex. They'd have to be baked in an oven for several hours. They'd have to be trimmed and painted, and then they get shipped over to right nearby was the Paramount Building, about 55th Street and Broadway, I think it was, right across from the Winter Garden Theater, where Cats was playing back then. Anybody see Cats?
I didn't know.
Nobody? Nobody saw Cats?
I did not.
Good. Don't go see it.
Don't.
Anyway, the Winter Garden Theater is right across from the Paramount Building. It's this big black steel building. And that's where the animators just totally destroyed our puppets. They bent them and twisted them into knots, and they cut off their arms and cut off their heads. And then the animators went in and drew blood squirting all over the place. That was pretty much the procedure, and it went on for a couple of years. Somewhere around the third season, I think it was like, you just get burnout. It's like, I can't make puppets forever, so we switched and we did something else. And from then, a lot of different things happened. 9/11 happened. That also crashed the industry. So I had to constantly reinvent myself. It's one of the things I've always done. So in reinventing myself, I started pitching my own television series. And eventually, I think it was called The Wrong Coast. It was for Canadian television. And instead of making, it was actually a similar show to Celebrity Deathmatch. There were a lot of characters that we did that was similar. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Jackson, and and we did all the comedy, and they beat each other up and all the usual things. I think you could find some of it on YouTube, but I couldn't even tell you. In the meantime, it was the way to pay the rent. It was the way to pay the mortgage on the house. It was, it was a job like any other. And then at that point, I started teaching in School of Visual Arts. I'm an adjunct professor. I'm still there. Actually, I kind of like left the industry. I left teaching for a while, and I thought, okay, COVID came. They're sending all the students home. You can't go to school. Some of my students never even got to like walk the graduation. They like graduated on their computer. It was all like virtual. And talk about being robbed of your college graduation. So that all came to an end. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm probably done teaching. And recently I was called back. I'm teaching classes in film production now and also in fine arts. So I enjoy teaching. I like to engage with the younger kids who are third my age, and it's very entertaining. And I learned so much because then I could talk to Mark and I know what he's talking about. Because otherwise, you just fall into your own way of doing things. But back in the 1960s, I bought comic books. We didn't have video games. We didn't have all those things. You played stickball in the street, or you were the other type of kid who read comic books. That's what I did. I loved to draw. I loved to sculpt with Play-Doh, and because we didn't have any advanced techniques and materials and supplies. So I had to invent a lot of those things along the way to stay relevant, which is how I got to meet people and work with, like Mark Hamill. I've done a couple of projects with, and if you know Mark Hamill from Star Wars. So we got to work together on a couple of things, and I like to stay relevant to what's going on today. And I think one of the things that's happening today, the younger crowd, younger kids, especially in middle grade, they're rediscovering comic books. And now they give it a fancy name. I think it's, what do they call it? Narrative storytelling? Visual narrative storytelling. So they're getting a kick out of looking at pictures and reading the dialogue that goes with the characters. So I've been, something I wanted to do my whole life was create a comic book. And this took me a couple of years to do, but I hunted around for some of the best artists I could, and I put together my own book. It's not middle grade, it is teen plus, which pretty much means teenager. That's what I'm in the process of promoting today. So I get to go to some of the really great shows. I get to go to New York Comic Con, which is in the city at the Jacob Javits Center, which is like the size of New Jersey. It's just the biggest event. And luckily, I'm with Hot Flips, so it's a shout out to them. They're very kind, they're wonderful people to work with, and they have all those things you need for your comic books. They got, the top loaders, the front loaders, the tubes. They've got all the plastic and the paper to put everything together and pack it up and keep it safe. And in 40 years from now, your kids will be selling it and making a lot of money. So they have all these great supplies. So I usually go there with them. And recently, so last year I started going to Terrificon, which is up in Connecticut. And that was a truly amazing experience. If you've never been to Terrificon, it's so worth going. This August is going to be their 10th anniversary. And a shout out to Mitch. Mitch is an amazing guy, and he brought me in as a guest. And their 10th anniversary, they have a whole line of special guests, which is going to be fantastic. So in fact, the last one we did, which was in August, Connor Reeves showed up. like I think unexpectedly, and he signs autographs for just a certain amount of people, and then boom, he was out the door. So these are the kind of people that Mitch brings in, all A-level Hollywood people, and I think he's absolutely amazing. And the other shows I do is like Brooklyn Comic-Con, stop bouncing on the table, got it. I'm used to being in college, you gotta like constantly get everybody awake, you know? So it's like, let's put my hands down here.
That's what I'm doing.
I do Brooklyn Comic-Con, you ever did that?
I've been there, we've covered it.
Did you do the last one where they were doing the live wrestling?
Wrestling, yeah. We have pictures on our Facebook page.
It's absolutely insane. Could you imagine you go to an event where they actually have live wrestling matches?
That's cool.
It was just, and the sound, it was like this. We were in a renovated, what is it called?
Gymnasium.
No, wasn't it a gymnasium?
That wasn't a gymnasium?
No, it was originally where you put the tanks when you think you're going to war.
A hangar.
Help me out.
I would say a hangar. It's a hangar.
Technically, I don't think a hangar would be a place for planes, no?
I thought so.
Armory, there's the word.
Oh, okay.
That guy over there got it. He just said armory. So it's one of the armories in Brooklyn, and it's just tremendous. The ceiling is 8 times, 10 times higher than here, and every time they body slam somebody on in the wrestling ring, it just echoed, and it was tremendous. So that was Sebastian's project, and he does it every year, and I believe I'm going to be a guest because he has called me in 2 years in a row, and it's just a great event. It's a great event to go to. There's a lot of things going on. And let's see.
You might not have noticed at the Brooklyn Comic-Con, which is something that I've only seen at New York Comic-Con. It's the line went around the building for people to come in. I've never seen that.
Oh, really?
It was crazy when I got there.
What day did you go?
I went the Saturday.
The Saturday is the big day,
and there was a line all the way around the building. I've never seen, it was a medium-sized building, it's not like the Jag Center. But to see a line all the way around, and then when I left, there was still a line all the way around. I've never seen anything like that.
It's a growing event. It's really good.
But you didn't mention what your book's about.
Oh, I'd love to tell you. I could talk about it forever. I didn't want to jump to it, but you're the person with the time, so you got to like continue pushing along. So Spontaneous is my book, and in the process of researching this, one of the things I found out was that between Marvel and DC, they have trademarked almost every name in the English language. To try to come up with a name of a character that would be the name of your book was, it was grueling for like 2-3 weeks. My lawyer kept saying, you don't want that name, even though your character doesn't look anything like Marvel and DC, you want to come up with something original. So the main character appears when she's needed most. So I went from Spontaneous to Spontanea. It's sort of a 1980s feel to it. So it's she's a street level superhero, which basically means she doesn't have extraordinary powers. And a lot of what she does, she's allowed to do because of the group of people behind her. So it's between her and another character, Marsha, which are their high school teens. They're in their last year. And they're pretty sharp, and they know something's weird going on in their town. Monsters are being seen at night, robots, all sorts of creatures. They get together with 2 tech nerds, along with the tech companies that moved into town, and they get together to form the character Spontanea to try to figure out what's going on. So it's an adventure, it's a mystery, it's a lot of intrigue and a lot of high tech. I did a lot of research. I wanted to create a costume that was basically bulletproof. So the idea was, because that's one of the things that always got me about, especially early days of Batman, everybody's got a gun, but yet nobody seems to be able to hit Batman and kill him. So I think it's kind of amazing. So I wanted to create a costume that was basically bulletproof. And wouldn't you believe it, I'm on Facebook, and I actually find this material that somebody invented, which is like bulletproof. It's a very soft material, but you can hit it with a hammer, and the second you hit it, it becomes solidified. And I went, oh, okay, so I'm not that far off. So I based it on a lot of current technology, and it's a fun book. I would recommend it to just about anyone. It's a perfect gift for any teenager who loves to read. Or if you want to get them away from video games, you know, you got to read a little bit.
Richard Simmons' home probably needs spontaneity to protect it. Probably. Are there any plans to bring this book to life? Animation? Stop motion animation?
I do plan on pitching it when the time is right.
Okay.
Because I have pitched to several companies. I mean, I've pitched television series both here on the East Coast and the West Coast. I've been to Disney and Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. I've been to so many different places. And that's kind of like my background because I've been doing this for 40 years. So when the time is right, which is going to be soon, we're finishing. This is basically the first 6 issues. And the second six issues are almost done, so that would be volume 2. And to me, that's a complete wraparound, a complete story. And it's the kind of thing that could be adapted into a TV series, either live action or animation, very easily, because I do have the experience of having written for television. So I kind of know what producers are looking for, rather than they look at a comic sometimes, they like the look, they like the idea, then they go make a movie and it's like, doesn't resemble the comic, and then they wonder why it didn't do well in the theater. Well, it didn't do well in the theater because you changed everything, you know, and that is what television and motion pictures is usually about. It's all about whoever has the power to dictate how the project goes. So, I mean, I could probably name 100 examples. I'll just give you one. There was, I think it was in January, the Spider-Woman, was that the name of it? Spider-Woman?
Spider-Girl?
No. That they can't.
No, not that one. That's another one. Madam Web, thank you. Madam Web was one of these feature films that came out. I don't know anyone that saw it. I watched it on TV for, keep going or no?
I saw it.
Oh, there you go. You saw the whole thing?
Saw the whole thing.
What did you think? Was it interesting? What was the word?
It was colorful. It was very colorful.
Was it
Yeah.
boring?
I honestly couldn't get through it. I mean, I'm familiar with the character. It goes back to like the late 1980s in the Spider-Man universe. And I thought, this is going to make this is really going to make a great movie.
It had potential.
Whoops.
It had potential.
Yes, it definitely had potential. So what went wrong? You tell me.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
What went wrong? It was Spider-Man.
A Spider-Man movie with no Spider-Man in it.
Yeah.
You couldn't mention his name. You couldn't say Peter Parker throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
But it was called Madam Web, right?
So,
all
right, how much time do I have?
I don't know. How much time do we have?
I'm going to make this as best as I can.
Okay.
So Sony has the rights to all these Spider-Man related characters.
Right.
But they want to keep all the money. So they have shared rights of Spider-Man. That's why Spider-Man can appear in the Marvel movies such as Avengers, Infinity War, what have you. But whenever they do a Spider-Man movie, they have to split the profit. So Sony, being greedy, like, well, we don't want to split the money, we want all the money, so we're not going to use him or mention him in our movie so we can keep all the money. So we're going to make a movie that has characters around Spider-Man world without Spider-Man in it, so we can keep all the money.
Makes sense.
That's what they did.
And it wasn't good.
And it wasn't good.
Now I want to see it.
Yeah,
now I'm interested.
It's a hard watch.
Really?
It's a really hard watch.
But what if you don't care about the whole universe and you have no loyalty? If you're just someone like me who just wants to be entertained?
I can't really say because I don't know your complete taste. But I can be honest with you and tell you from my point of view, at my age, where I am in the industry and what I'm doing, I'll give it, my wife and I have this like 5-minute rule. We'll start watching something, we give it 5 minutes and then we go, what do you think? And usually like, I'm done if you're done, and then we move on to something else. Because, I mean, really, there's only so many hours in your day, and there's only so many days in, you know, your year, and, you know, if you're still working, you know, we're both still working technically. So, I mean, between teaching and publishing my own book, which I decided to go in this direction also, was to create my own publishing company for the purpose of creating my own book, and which also mean I had to get a trademark on the character, which took I don't know a year and a half to get a trademark going, and it becomes very costly. You know, you could just like before you know it, it's like thousands of dollars you're spending on your product, which is okay because it is a corporation and this is basically the cost of doing business. And if anybody's ever been a business person, then you know. You got to spend money to make money. It's just part of the deal. The good news is, several people have said to me, aren't you afraid like Marvel and DC are going to come along and take that name Spontanea? Do it. I got a lawyer. I'm fine with that. I own Spontanea. And the more shows I get to, the more podcasts I do, the more radio shows I do, the more the name circulates, and people know that I'm the guy who created it, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, very smart.
Thank you.
Just random question. Anything that you watch with your wife that you think is great and you want to continue to this minute 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, your wife says, no way, or vice versa, something that she really wanted to watch and you said, I can't do more than 5 minutes?
We have our own shows that we would prefer to watch.
Okay.
I can't tell you what her shows are. If I could, I probably would.
Yeah.
The shows that I watch are generally not violent, not crazy, not war-driven, but once in a while I'll find a show that I think is interesting. Like, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, you just caught me offhand. It's the one in the future about they're mining stuff on other planets.
Halo?
No, it's not Halo. Wow, it ran out of my head. I should like write these things down and keep them in front of me so I can remember them. I mean, but usually science fictions. I get a kick out of science fictions. Anything. I also have a lot of friends with science fiction writers, so that's like one of the big favorites of mine. But once things get crazy and violent, my wife is like, I don't really need this.
Oh, so she doesn't want the violence.
No.
Oh,
Neither of us, but I'll tolerate it if I think the story is done really well.
Okay.
Yeah. Ted Lasso, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. So with that in mind, when you're writing something, do you also write what you like? Or is it possible that you can write something where it would have violence because that's where the story takes it?
You know, like it or not, I think if you want a good story, there's got to be a conflict. And conflict is really the driving force in any story. So you have to come up with what the conflict's going to be. So the way I look at it in my spontaneous story is that I give each character a different type of conflict. I don't believe like one conflict has to be a character like Thanos where he could snap his fingers and just destroy half of the universe. To me, that's like way too much. I like to bring things down to a human level, to what we call street level superhero, where this character is worried about one thing and this character is worried about getting caught at work, stealing the tech. You know, they could go to jail for that. Another person is doing something else similar. And to me, that's what makes the whole thing very interesting is the complexity of the conflicts that each character has to deal with, and how you go about conquering the conflict is really what makes the whole thing, the whole drive. You mentioned Bluey very quickly. Bluey's great. Bluey is for little kids, and if you have grandchildren or any young people, they should be watching Bluey. Bluey is amazing, and there's a great conflict in every story, and they find smart ways of getting around it. That's what I love about Rugrats. My kids were very young. They watched Rugrats. And it was the same thing. Very clever stories and very clever ways of solving the problems without killing people, shooting people. There's enough of that in the world. We don't need it in comics. Sadly, I think that's what drives most comic creators in the industry today is the violence. And then there's also a lot of sex. If that's what you like, hey, there's plenty there for you. Go enjoy yourself.
Right.
I'm interested in story arcs. I'm interested in being fair and equal to everybody, getting everybody in there, different people, different walks of life, from younger to older, and make it interesting. You know, the main character who is Spontanea, she's all of 17, she's going on 18, and she's a risk taker. So her father was a test pilot. So I try to build in these little story arcs to show, like, why would anybody just take chances doing things? But if any of us remember when we were 17, we did some crazy stuff too. So it's not that surprising. But there's a consequence to your actions. And that's the other part of the story arc, is that you can do something favorable or nice for someone, but there's going to be a consequence because that's basically how the universe works. That for every action, there's going to be an opposite reaction, and you got to deal with it.
An opposite reaction.
Now,
equal and opposite reaction, yeah.
Despite the fact that we're at a live event right now, most people are going to hear this on the radio, and they do not know that you are not a 16-year-old girl. And what they always say is, write what you know. So how did you decide to write about a 16-year-old girl having not being a 16-year-old girl?
Great question.
Well, she's 17.
I'm 17 years old.
And her friends are also in their 20s and some are in their 30s, and her parents are in their 50s. So to me, I'm writing about people. Mm-hmm. People are people, and they're going to do things that people do. Mm-hmm. And I went to high school, and I went to college, and I hung out with 16-year-old girls when I was that age, and people did what people did, and there isn't that much of a difference from then to now. You know, the styles have changed, the hair has changed, kids have tattoos, I don't know. There's all this kind of thing. It's, you know, the cars are different, the cars are faster. People are still people. There's no real difference. You just gotta basically think in terms of what's the dynamic of the character. It's not the fact that it's a girl and she's 17. It's the fact that she's a person in high school who doesn't want to be there, who happens, what are their likes, what are their dislikes? She's a jock. She likes gymnastics. She likes sports. She likes kickboxing. All right, I can identify with that. I raised children. You know, they had friends. I had them in the basement playing guitar and drums, and they had their own bands. And you know, they're always thinking they don't see you, but I see everything the kids are doing. I just gotta pick and choose my my battles. You know, you shouldn't be doing this. And, you know, that kind of thing. Stay away from that person. I always try to basically point out things to my children. Like, instead of just telling them they can't do something. You know, that's like the kiss of death. You tell any child they can't do it, that's what they want to do. And you really can't blame them. It goes for adults too. You know, you can't talk to me that way, you can't do this, you shouldn't do that. And they kind of like have their own opinions. So to me, it's just writing about people. And I've read enough books. You know, my favorite books are Rudyard Kipling and Harry Potter series, and you know, you just go on and on. These are kids that are 12, 13, 15, 18. You know, you're writing about people. That's the whole thing. You're writing about people.
So we're at social media time. So where can people find out more about your book, about yourself, all that fun stuff? Okay.
So I'll tell you. You can go to my website, which is, the name of the company is Comic Book Kid Publishing, and my website is comicbookkidpub.com. That's P-U-B, which stands for publishing. We are building the website now, so if you went there, you might just see the name and that's about it. But I do a lot of appearances. Coming up in 2 weeks, as you mentioned, there is the Long Island Convention of Horror, starting on February 28th, and it goes through Saturday and Sunday, March 1st and March 2nd. That's at the Hyatt Regency in Hauppauge, out here on Long Island, which I'm looking forward to this. It's 3 days. I'm also going to be doing 3 panels. Now, it is horror, and because of my background in having made puppets that killed each other on Celebrity Deathmatch, so I'm being brought in as a guest. But it should be 3 days of a lot of fun and a lot of panels about writing, especially about writing. There are going to be a lot of horror authors, and horror authors also write fantasy and science fiction, so it's a whole smattering of this kind of stuff, and it's coming up on February 28th. Hopefully I'll see some of you there. After that, on March 15th, I'll be in Connecticut, New Haven, at the Southern Connecticut State University. It's the Indie Comics Creator Con. Mouthful there, let me say it again. Indie Comics Creator Con. So primarily what their goal was to create a convention for people who do indie comics. Are you going to be there, Mark?
I know the guy, and every time there's convention, I always have a conflict. But
no.
But I've spoken to him. It's a great convention. I know a lot of friends that I have over the years are there. It's a beautiful convention if you're a fan of independent comic art.
Nice, nice. And it's very affordable. Usually I go in as a guest. They don't know me, I don't know them, so I did take a table, and I'm there to promote more than anything else. Promote Spontanea, promote my Comic Book Kid Publishing, which is my company. You know, really funny thing about the name Comic Book Kid Publishing, my accountant said you need to come up with a name of a company, and I thought, since I was about 5, I was called the Comic Book Kid because I just had stacks of comic books, and I'm like, come on. Somebody must have taken the name Comic Book Kid by now. And then you look online, and I found out there was a whole bunch of people calling themselves that, but nobody actually had Comic Book Kid Publishing as a corporation. So I was like, yes, nailed it.
So you mentioned the HorrorCon. We also have a raffle going on, and you were nice enough to raffle off your book. And as a bonus, we're going to give away 2 passes to that very same.
Oh wow! So then I will see 2 people
so,
there.
Does everybody have their raffle tickets? Make sure you have it. Pull it out. Pull out the winner.
I get to pull it out?
Pull out the winner. That way
There's
no funny business.
No funny business.
The guest always picks the winner.
Is that one I got?
Got it.
Is it 1? No, you
No,
got
2.
You got like 8.
How many?
Yeah.
Good thing they're not.
Band-aid on my finger.
Good thing
You
they're
sure
not
that's
labeled. There's 2. Is that 1 there?
There you go.
That's 1. All right.
There you go.
1.
So the winner is.
The winner is 376-896.
376. There you go.
Wait, 2, 3, 4.
1 second when the show.
Which one is it? 376-896.
896, right?
Oh, sorry.
896. All right, man.
Sorry, George.
That is our winner right here. We'll
Okay.
get you some the Just like everybody knows, we always have a free giveaway at our show. Actually, we're almost out of time. So, do you have any final thoughts, Man Jenny Feldy?
Final thoughts are, you know, I always wonder lately how other countries are going to try to destroy us. So one of my thoughts is sending bed bugs in the mail. I came across. And also, you know, all these people complain about respiratory diseases. What about new STDs being made? I'm waiting to hear about that. These are just things on my mind in the last few days. Have a good night.
Carl, do you have any final thoughts?
Wow, I don't know if I could top that.
It's not a competition.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, I look forward to doing this again. Hopefully you'll have me back, so thank you very much.
We'll have you back in another 23 years.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully sooner than that. 23 years, I don't know if I'm going to make that.
So my final thought is this. Thank you, Carl, for being an integral part of this radio show, of a significant part of my life that made all this happen.
Wow.
I've known you for over about 30 years or so.
It's been a while.
And I am really glad to see, because I hadn't seen you after I had graduated, got my certificate. Some guys don't have that certificate. You were gone, and then I started seeing you pop up again, and it's really cool to see that you're still around, you're still doing stuff out there, and much continued success. And I want to thank you for helping this all happen, even though you may not know you were going to do it, but by doing it, you did. So I want to thank you very much for doing that. So that about does it for this.
Can I mention one last thing?
Yeah.
You remember Prentice Rollins?
I remember Prentice
Rollins.
Good
friend. We did the cover to my next volume of 6 issues. Cool. So volume 2, that's Prentice Rollins.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. So we stayed in touch also for the same amount of time. That's how long we've all known each other.
Yeah, we actually had Prentice on the show when we did the Zoom. He was all the way.
Oh, that's right. He's in England.
And I just found old pictures of me doing that to my grandma and my mom, and now I see that as a comic book cover.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's a great poem.
So that about does it for this week on It Came From the Radio. Join us right here any week on this radio station. If you miss any part of the show, go to our website, www.itcamefromtheradio. The archives will be up in a week or so. Our next live convention at the East Meadow Public Library will be our 90th show with special guest Daniel Crixel Boxbaum. He's a gaming owner, and he also writes a comic book, a gaming guide. He wrote a new game for a video game guide. That will be on Wednesday, March the 12th at the East Meadow Public Library. For more information, go to www.eastmeadow.info. And we will thank you all for being part of our live studio audience.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Time.
You've been listening to It Came From the Radio with Mark Torres. The views of the show's hosts and guests did not necessarily reflect that of the management, owners, or staff of the station. We now return you to your earthly scheduled broadcast.
next live show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got our winner